It's the newest, most luxurious ship afloat, Silversea's Silver Dawn. At its recent naming ceremony in Lisbon, I sat down for an extended conversation with Jason Liberty, the CEO of Silversea's parent company, Royal Caribbean, for an update on the cruise industry, about how it navigated the uncharted waters of the pandemic and how they plan to move forward. Suffice to say, it's been an interesting time in the cruise industry. Roller Coaster doesn't even begin to talk about where you guys were and where you guys are and maybe where you guys are going. But in the last 2 years, was there ever anything in the playbook that could have anticipated what you went through?
Yeah, well, as you said, Peter, the industry, our company was accelerating going into this pandemic. We were growing at about 5 or 6% a year on our capacity. And then
You were filling your ship.
filling the ships with no problems. We were expanding our destinations and our deployments around the world. We had more and more guests coming from different countries all around the world.
So it was looking very good.
Very good.
And then pandemic.
Pandemic hits, as you kind of referred to a playbook. There is no playbook when all of a sudden you go from $11 billion of revenue to zero. So I kind of describe it as a meteor directly hit our industry. But I will say, the culture within our organization has always been very solution oriented, very innovative, and very partnership driven. And so when this happened, of course, there's a moment of time where, you all of a sudden there's no revenue coming in, but the ecosystem, the partnerships, everything kind of came together for us relatively quickly, which put us in a much stronger financial position relative to others.
At a point where nobody thought you could pull that off.
And so, there was a lot of skepticism on whether or not we were going to be able to survive that direct meteor hit, and we very much proved that wrong.
And so you've been cruising now basically since June of 21.
June of 21, that's right.
And are you fully back yet?
We've got about 85% of our capacity is back up and running. The balance of that will be up here in the next couple of months. And we're slowly bringing our load factors back up, and we plan to be at full load factors in the summer.
If a cruise ship doesn't sail, for whatever reason, how many jobs are affected? Right? It's the guys who supply the ship with the beer. It's the taxi drivers. It's the limo drivers. It's the bus tour guys, and they get to the ports. It's the souvenir stores. It's the restaurants. I mean, there's so many different ancillary beneficiaries or victims.
Well, yeah. So I mean, if you step back and you look at how a cruise ship impacts an economy, and especially economies. I mean, we go to 1,000 different locations, and sometimes we're bringing 100 guests, and sometimes we're bringing 5,000 or 6,000 guests. And what that brings to that local economy is pretty significant. And then, of course, we're based in South Florida. We do a lot of our sourcing of our goods and services, from the U.S. and other local sourcing markets around the world. So there's a very large ecosystem that these are floating cities, right? So that make sure that we're able to perform and deliver the best vacations in the world.
So when that didn't happen, that didn't just trickle down, that tumbled down.
It tumbled down. And that's also why, as we kind of were coming back, everybody was very motivated to work through what are the process and protocols for us to return to all these different destinations, because we're a very large slice of their local economies.
What are you doing differently now as a result of the pandemic that you never even would have thought of before?
Well, I mean, there are certainly things in which, in terms of, we never thought about the testing elements, the quarantine. So there's those things that I think will evaporate here over time. But when you look at the actual experience in itself, it actually looks and feels very similar. I think the difference is really, and it might be a little bit more kind of touchy-feely, is how much everybody really appreciates the business, how much we appreciate each other, and we don't take anything for granted. And so I think with that, there's another lens just to make sure that that we're really focused on the experience and making sure we're doing what's always responsible.
Let's talk about some of the smaller ships. This is a smaller ship, the Silver Dawn. Only 298 suites, maybe 600 and so odd passengers.
Yep.
You have a wonderful crew to passenger ratio with the butlers. Different experience.
Different experience. Well, we really, and some of this was pre-pandemic, and we really had tuned into what segments we thought were the segments that we wanted to be in and that we wanted to address. And we go from very kind of multi-generational to very kind of ultra luxury, a little bit more of a mature clientele. And we wanted to have the right brands to address those different current demographics and those emerging demographics over time. And so you do see this avalanche of demand, that some of that's pent up because they didn't experience things over the past couple of years, and also the consumer has more money in their pocket to go out and spend.
But there's also almost a generational shift in what their priorities are.
Well, yeah, so and that's exactly right. They have shifted, and of course, with more people graduating into retirement, there's a real thirst to really do two things. One is to hit bucket list experiences and that they've always wanted to go, but two, a lot of people had delayed their retirements, and so they want to make up for that time with their kids and their grandchildren. And so you see this burst of multi-generational travel.
You're also seeing some demographic changes. You're seeing median age coming down.
Yep. That's right. So we've been seeing this for a while, where the average age, whether it's on our Royal, Celebrity, or Silversea brand, has been getting younger and younger. And the real driver of it, I believe, and there's data to support it, is really the advocacy and the benefits of social media, right? The ability to see and experience through the eyes of your friends and family, and all of a sudden you sit there and say, to your spouse, how come we're not, kayaking next to a glacier in Alaska? That looks like an incredible experience, and it's bringing in, through the eyes of friends and family, what an incredible experience cruising is. That's what people thirst for. They thirst for exploration and education, and they want to be able to walk away with a story, and that's what Silversea delivers. While we obviously gone through a very challenging period of time, we've enhanced the products, the experience, the assets themselves have been enhanced. How we were investing pre-pandemic as well as through the pandemic, in order to make sure that when we came out of this, that our business looked and felt better than it did before.
Jason Liberty, thanks so much.
Thanks, Peter.